What's up, guys? We officially have our first matchup in the second round. So we have the St. Louis Blues versus the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche obviously being the favorites to win the Stanley Cup, but are the favorites to win this series? With St. Louis blowing past their opponent in 6 games. And what I mean by blowing past, it's because offensively they were the better team. Something we spoke about in the first matchup video that we covered, which was St. Louis versus Minnesota, saying that if St. Louis could get offensive production from all of their players, then they will win the series. And that's what happened. And now we're here in the second round.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time these two face off against each other. They faced off against each other last year, where St. Louis found themselves getting swept by the Colorado Avalanche in the first round. So, will history repeat itself this year in the second round?
Well, I mean, for me, you're looking at two teams. Like, look, I'll be honest. I chose Minnesota last series to
I
win
chose
against.
no one. I said it was going to be close 7 games,
I
and I was wrong.
I had chosen Minnesota because I thought Minnesota was going to beat them. I was wrong clearly, but you know what? For St. Louis, I think they've impressed. They've impressed a lot of people, and I think one guy that we kind of talked about in the Minnesota series review that we didn't really that we mentioned in the St. Louis versus Minnesota series was that it was going to be a question of goaltending, right? And well, I think St. Louis's goaltending, at least one guy in particular, has really woken up and stepped up his game, and that's Jordan Binnington. And for me, that's been the biggest, relief for St. Louis Blues is that they've been able to have a goaltender in Jordan Binnington who's turned back into form and looked really good. And I think that that's going to be a big important factor. But
3 wins, 0 losses, and a save
that's it.
percentage is currently 0.943%.
Wow.
And yeah, I think that's fantastic for him. We questioned the goaltending, like you were saying, and we're like, if you're going to start the series, you're going to start the series with Ville Husso. He didn't play necessarily bad, but when Bennington came in, he was playing fantastic in a way that it really motivated the St. Louis Blues as a team. And they won 3 straight, and they closed up the series in 6 games, winning 4-2 against the Minnesota Wild. And then on the other hand, you have the Colorado Avalanche sweeping the Nashville Predators. And, Nashville did the best they could have done. But again, Colorado is just way too strong. And they
Well,
proved that even with Darcy Kemper not playing the last game, and they had Frank Kutsenets due to injury. Um, I think it's honestly fantastic that we have a team in St. Louis where I honestly think they're better than last year. They're a good mix of veterans and young guys as well. You have Jordan Kyrou, who had a good season, Robert Thomas, who had a good season, Pavel Buchnevich, who had a good season. Um, and then with the mix of the vets, obviously they showed up this year, right? You have Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron, who are currently the two best point leaders on St. Louis, and two guys that really helped them defeat the
yeah.
Minnesota Wild. But also Tarasenko, 3 goals and 3 assists as well in 6 games. Pretty impressive numbers there from the vets.
Well, I think. Look, one thing that's really interesting about Vladimir Tarasenko, and he's a guy that I kind of, I like him a lot. I think he's a guy that doesn't get a lot of respect from a lot of people outside of maybe St. Louis fans, and that's because of maybe his trade request and his injury history. But this guy this season, he played really, really well. And I think that it's an opportunity for St. Louis now. You're coming up against a really good Colorado team. And like you mentioned, I think they're the best team in the league. I don't think anybody's as good as Colorado. I really don't. But with St. Louis, it's one of those things where you can't really sleep on this team either, right? They've kind of proven in past years that they've been able to compete with the best of the best. And obviously, they won a cup not so long ago. And so for the St. Louis Blues, they're still one of those teams in the NHL that they can beat anybody on any given night. And so for me, I look at this series between them and Colorado, and I think to myself, this is going to be a series that might go, really far. And
It's going to go
like
7 games, and I expect this to be a
yeah.
close series, to be
Well, like a
honest.
lot of people have said in the comments right here, Nolan Raymond has said this series definitely going to 6 or 7, and then Gerard saying this is going to be a good series and could go either way for both, as both teams are great. I'm going to tell you right now, man, I agree. I think this series is a 6-7 game series, hard fought between both teams. I'm not going
A
to make
lot
a
of
prediction.
goals. A lot of
I don't.
goals. That's
I'm
my
going to be honest with
prediction.
you. I'm not going to make a prediction this time. And the only reason I'm not going to make a prediction this time is because I don't want to upset fans of either team because I personally think both teams are really good, and I think both teams can beat each other. And I'm just gonna be watching as a neutral. I don't really want to make a prediction.
I love both
However,
teams equally, to be honest.
I will say one thing. I had Colorado going to the conference final, but also I'm also going to say this: Colorado played a worse team compared to St. Louis, and they had an easier time in round number one, which is why I think St. Louis are going to be a little bit more motivated. You know, it's going to be a tougher opponent. You're not playing the Nashville Predators who don't have a goaltender, right?
They're
You're
playing with
playing the
Ingram and Riddick.
that's
Saros
it.
wasn't there.
You're playing a St. Louis team that's got both their goaltenders, that's got a young team, that's got Ryan O'Reilly, Jordan Kyrou, David Perron, and Vladimir Tarasenko flying on all cylinders. You're
There's
playing
also
a tougher team.
Barbashev as well. That's
That's
another
it.
guy to mention as well.
So we'll
Um,
see. But
yeah, well, yeah.
for me, there's one thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to say this. I think that goaltending in this series again is going to play a factor, and the
But
reason
here's the thing with goaltending:
yeah,
is Darcy Kemper going to be back? Because we know he's dealing
I
with an
think so.
injury.
I think he
I
will
think so too.
because he was practicing right before game 4, and they wanted I think they wanted to sit him out because they were like, okay, we're up 3-0 in the series.
Against
Let's go.
Nashville, like,
Yeah,
let's get
let's
Frank
roll
Hoots
with
again.
Francouz. And I think now because they've had a longer layoff compared to everybody else, and they've had more time to relax, and obviously Kemper's had more time to kind of rest and stuff. I think he'll be ready to go for game 1, and I think if he's ready to go for game 1, it's going to be a great battle between
Oh
him and
yeah,
Bennington.
Bennington versus Kemper. That's gonna be
Yeah,
fantastic, to be honest. And
and I
a
think
little, yeah.
I just want to say one last thing. I think that Colorado's got a better goaltending situation this year than they did last year. I think with Darcy Kemper, you're getting a better goaltender, and I think Grubauer last year. I'm not saying he costed them the series against Vegas, but he definitely wasn't
He
good
choked.
enough.
He
And
choked.
so I think Kemper this year might be good enough. I mean, he played well. He's played well in the games that he's had so far. So we'll see.
Well, we have one guy agreeing with me, Isaac Frost, saying I expect a lot of goals. So do I.
I think
I
so.
can't wait for this series. I think we're all hyped up for this series.
Yeah, yeah.
This series is going to be entertaining, of course. And then JT Ramirez is saying that I think this is going to be more entertaining than the Wild series. Well, yeah, of course, because like we were saying with the Wild, okay, in the last matchup video we did concerning the St. Louis Blues, is that Minnesota, a lot of their players were having career years. Could have that been a factor in them winning a playoff series against St. Louis? Yes. But it hurt them because a lot of those guys did not show up. It did not the regular season success did not transition into playoff success. That's why they got eliminated. St. Louis had the firepower offensively, and they showed up. They showed up, and they were hot. Both teams were hot, mind you, heading into the playoffs from the regular season. They were both on winning streaks, and Bennington coming up in relief for Husso gave them the edge as well. They had both fantastic goaltending on the Wild, Marc-Andre Fleury and Talbot, but it just wasn't good. It wasn't good enough, unfortunately. And Minnesota got eliminated because St. Louis just had that extra firepower that Minnesota didn't. And I just want to give a little shout out to Kaprizov, who did very well in that series, and unfortunately, um, you know, uh, didn't advance to the next round. But I think in the next couple of years, he's going to be surrounded with better players and younger players as well. But let's see what else is going on in the chat. We have Gerard saying that Wild don't have a lot of playoff experience. That's another thing as well. Uh,
Well, Well, I think that I kind of agree with that in terms of the sense that I think lately, like, they've kind of struggled to get past certain rounds of the playoffs. But I think too, like Minnesota had a team that was kind of capable of beating St. Louis. And what I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to disrespect the St. Louis Blues, but I don't think that the St. Louis Blues, are the same team that they were in when they won the cup a couple of years ago. And I think that that's something that you need to take into consideration. They've kind of had a lot of guys, like they've lost Petrangelo too in that sense too, and that's been a big piece. But I think that St. Louis, it's one of those things where it's like Minnesota really had this chance to kind of prove to the NHL that they were, for real. And I think that they choked, but I also think that you have to give credit where credit's due. David Perron's playing fantastic hockey, right? He's playing
he's
fantastic
always
hockey,
been
and
a very good player that I feel that he was always overlooked. I think he's
yeah,
a very underrated player, to be
I
honest.
agree. And that's it.
And
And I think I think too, like for him, he's one of those guys where like he's coming up. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He's gonna command a decent amount of money, and I think that if you're a team, that has salary cap, if he doesn't resign in St. Louis, that's a guy that you can look at. Especially he's a playoff performer, David Perron, and I think he's a guy that's he was a big reason the Blues won the cup when they did, and now he's a big
I'm gonna
reason.
make a
No,
prediction, but I'm not gonna say it right now. I'm gonna say it towards the end of the episode. But I do have a winner, but even
oh
though it's really hard to choose because I like both teams and I respect both teams. So basically, this is the opposite of the Minnesota and versus St. Louis video, where you had a choice, a choice of who was gonna win, and I didn't have a clear cut winner.
yeah.
Now it's the opposite. But last thing I'm gonna say about St. Louis before heading to Colorado is that Torrey Krug is dealing with a injury. He's day to day, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see if he's able to start the series against Colorado. But Kale McCarr, okay, has been fantastic in the playoffs so far. 10 points in 4 games. Holy crap. This guy is the modern day Bobby Orr, baby. And you also have McKinnon, who's doing fantastic with 6 points in 4 games. Landeskog with 6 points in 4 games. One guy that I think he's going to have a bounce back series is Nazem Kadri. I think Kadri's is gonna do well in this series against a team like St. Louis. And a shout out to a guy who is underlooked on Colorado's end is Burakovsky. I think Burakovsky is a fantastic player, and he did have a very good series against the Nashville Predators and a
Well,
fantastic goal too.
well, I think what's interesting too, right? You mentioned Kale McCarr. I think Kale McCarr, like, I mean, he's the best. I think he's the best defenseman in the league. I don't think there's a question about that. I think if people want to debate me on that, let's go ahead and debate it. But how I look at it is this: this guy was the biggest reason Colorado won this series, and I think it's real. Like it's not even close. I mean, he's got 10 points. The second highest guy is McKinnon with 6, and like that says a lot. I think it says a lot about how good Kale McCarr is, but also just how important he was in this series. And I think, look, like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, I think Colorado had an easy time against Nashville. I think everybody knew Colorado was going to beat Nashville. I had Colorado beating Nashville in 4, and I was right because I think even with Saros in this series, yes, I think Nashville maybe would have taken 1 or 2, but guaranteed, like Colorado wasn't losing this series. And so I think with St. Louis, it's a tougher opponent in the sense that they're a different team. They've got the playoff experience. They're coming off a cup win that was less than 5 years ago. They're in a good spot, and I think that for St. Louis, we've seen what Jordan Binnington is capable of doing in the playoffs. We know what he's capable of, and this guy, he's capable of steering a series, but he's also capable of stealing 4. And so we've seen what he's capable of doing before, and I think it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a great series.
Look,
And for
Mikko
me,
Rantanen, 5 assists as
fantastic.
well. Someone that's really surprising on St. Louis's end, Justin Falk, 4 assists.
Yeah.
Really showing his offensive upside. Um, and Buchnevich, 4 assists as well. That's fantastic on his end. Yeah, both these teams offensively are powerhouses. I would say they're both top 5 in terms of offense in the league. In terms of defense, I would say Colorado wins this, and in terms of goaltending, I think it's pretty much even. I would say.
Well, offense, I give it to. I would say,
I think they're equally good offensively.
I'm gonna give it to Colorado. I think Colorado's a better team. Look, I do. I think Colorado's a better team from offense and defense. I think St. Louis has a better goaltending. I think in terms of playoff experience, if
They're
you had,
more well-rounded, I would say.
yeah,
But
but I don't know, man. The defense. I mean, listen, we're talking
look,
about Kale McCarr,
Capo
but
Caco enthusiast says
but
Blues power play is really good, and it
we're
is.
talking about we're talking about Kale McCarr, but we didn't mention Devin Tays. Can we
Yeah,
mention how good Devin Tays has been? Because
very good.
this
A
guy,
guy
man,
that you overlooked because he plays alongside
I
Kale
know, but
McCarr.
that's how crazy it is, man. It's that like McCarr's been good, but Devin Tays has been really good too. So that trade, man, the Islander fans, if you're Islander fans, I feel really bad for you, man. 2 second-round picks for that guy. That was a steal and a half for
We
Colorado.
want to hear your predictions as well, guys, in the chat below. Like, who
Yeah.
do you think's gonna be the MVP of this series? Does Bennington continue playing outstanding? Is there gonna be a shock in this series? Is it gonna really be a 6 or 7 game series, or is it gonna take a lot less games for there to be a clear winner. And just for people that are interested in terms of the regular season matchup between these two teams, which doesn't really matter at this point, but just to give you a clear idea of like how close the series really is. Colorado, they were 2-1-0 against St. Louis, and St. Louis was 1-2-0 against Colorado. So pretty close. I mean, just wanted to throw that nibit in there.
But
And
like
then
we
there's
saw, regular seasons
yeah, it
means that.
doesn't really matter, but I know people are always interested in that, so I just wanted to mention that. And also, something that may come to a shock to many Colorado fans. So, should the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup, Tyson Just's name will be engraved on the Stanley Cup because he played 41 NHL regular season games. So, this guy's going to win a cup, regardless, whether if it was with Minnesota
Oh,
or
so
with
is
Colorado.
that your prediction? Is you're saying Colorado beats St.
Yeah,
Louis?
so I say my prediction is that Colorado wins in 7 games. And that's like you were
Oh,
saying before,
all right.
that Colorado is the better team in terms of being a more well-rounded team. But in terms like I did my breakdown before about like how I see the matchup in terms of offense, defense, and goaltending, I think it's still going to be a very close matchup. And I just want to see a couple of chats here before we end this episode.
Nolan's
Uh,
really going in here, man.
yeah, Nolan's a passionate St. Louis fan. You have Nolan saying that Shen owns Kadri. Um,
I
I
mean,
don't know.
listen, he's
Definitely going
passionate,
6 and
man.
7 games. Going to be a great series.
I give him credit for it.
Leon, nice for you to show up. Darnell Nurse versus is better than
No,
Makar.
but Leon, you have to focus.
I don't
You
agree
have
with that.
Leon, don't you have to focus on Game 7? You have Game 7
This
coming
is
up
an
here.
interesting one here. I wish we traded for Tarasenko. Well, there was rumors that the Islanders were going to trade for Tarasenko, and that would have been perfect for Barzell, which we've been complaining about in our Trotz video, in our why did the New York Islanders fail to make the playoffs and have a good season video as well, and even during the trade deadline. They need an elite or franchise sniper to put alongside Barzell, or Barzell is never going to play to his full potential. He's not going to have an 80-point season or a 90-point season if he does not get that caliber of sniper. So, I mean, again, Tarasenko did not rule out the fact that that he wants to nix a trade now, even though he requested a trade before the season started. So, I mean, does St. Louis's success right now change his opinion about what he wants to do, or does he still want to get traded? Is he gonna like revoke basically his trade request or nix it essentially? I don't know, to be honest. We don't know what's going on in Tarasenko's mind.
I don't know.
Let's see what Elias is saying here. The Avalanche remind me of the Oilers. I don't think so. I don't
I was just
agree with
about to say,
that.
nah.
Got some superstars, but always choke in the second round. I mean, yeah. I mean, that statement there that they choke in the second round is true. Colorado, I mean, if you want to make a comparison, Colorado is the modern day Washington Capitals. They choke in the second round a lot.
But they're a team like, okay, the comparison with the Oilers, I'll give you an example. The Oilers, I think, if you look at where they're at, I think the Oilers are just a goaltender away. I think with Colorado, it's not necessarily a question of them being chokers in the second round. I think it's kind of getting over the hump against Vegas. You know, they struggled against Vegas twice, and I mentioned that. It's all about it's all about getting over the hump. Vegas is not in the playoffs this year, right? And so because Vegas is not in the playoffs, this is Colorado's chance, right? To kind of go and get their chance, their opportunity to win the
Essentially,
Stanley
when
Cup.
thinking about this, it's like what I said in the last video, because you mentioned the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Is it's like the Toronto Raptors with LeBron James. Okay, LeBron James was their kryptonite. As soon as he wasn't in their division anymore, they won the NBA championship. So I think that's the same thing with Colorado. So I just wanted to say, guys, thank you once again for tuning in. This is our first out of 4 matchup videos in the second round. We're just awaiting the other matchups in the first round to conclude. So look forward to that. Look forward to also our videos that we're going to continue posting heading into the off season as well, concerning the draft and the NHL free agency as well. We just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for subscribing and following us and supporting us. We'll see you in the next episode, essentially. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to anyone that may be interested. Until the next episode, guys. Goodbye.
Peace.